Good morning. Has everybody had that second cup of coffee? All right, good. Well, I also want to express my appreciation. This is the first time I've been on the campus of Lynn University. Beautiful. And I'm sure that the student achievement that goes on here represents the quality that we see in the facility. And also express thanks to the Junior League of Boca Raton. Liz, you may know, has also because we have a Foundation Center collection at the Community Foundation offices, has also helping out with orientations to the collection there. And we're fortunate that we are able to provide ease of access, given the breadth of the county, to the important resources. Before I get started, I'd like to get a sense of who we have in the room. How many of you in this room have direct responsibilities for doing development work for your organizations? Welcome. And how many of you represent organizations with budgets of $100,000 a year or less? Okay, a good representation. How about $250,000 or more? Some large organizations. And $500,000 or more. So many of you big institutions, but we also have on that continuum smaller organizations with more modest budgets. Raise your hand if you are on a calendar year for your budget. So you're right now about 4 months into your current year budget. Okay. How many of you in the calendar this year are worried about next year's budget? Yeah, I kind of thought that might have been the case. Well, I'm gonna start out. What I'm going to do is walk you through a quick slideshow. Some of you may have participated on a webinar that we did at Orientation to New Guidelines. And I'm going to run through this quickly because that was then. And I think the more important conversation is what is now. We are on a July 1, June 30 fiscal year, so we are into the second part of our grant cycle, and we'll finish that out. But as you know, going forward, July 1 into the new fiscal year is an area of concern for grant makers as well. So everything I'm going to show you is on our website, and I'll finish with that. And we also have multiple staff here today, so if you haven't made a face-to-face with the individuals in our program department, I encourage you to do so. Our mission is to promote positive change and quality of life through the power of charitable giving. And the Foundation's been in service to Palm Beach and Martin counties for over 30 years, and throughout that time done over $70 million in grant making across a variety of fields of interest. So grant making, of course, but a community foundation is a little bit different in that we're an umbrella of many different kinds of funds. So while we do a large amount of unrestricted grant making in comparison to most community foundations nationally, we also have numerous donor advised funds where donors work directly with foundation staff and use their charitable fund at the foundation to meet their own charitable dreams for the kinds of things that they're interested in funding in communities. Community foundations are also about providing leadership in the community as we see issues emerge and conditions change. And we'll talk a little bit about the importance of that role in going forward. And we build permanent endowment. This becomes a way for donors to make gifts of endowment that in perpetuity are reinvested in the community. So that's a very important characteristic of how we do business and how we're structured. In 2009, which is the fiscal year we're in now, we began planning well over last April with a board retreat. We'd been doing an unrestricted grant-making program for a number of years. We thought it was time to take a look at what we were doing and how we might do it better and differently in the future. That board retreat also included a discussion about emerging needs in the communities and how the foundation might better position its grant resources to leverage those opportunities. We took a look at what we did in the past. We decided we also needed to streamline and revisit how we were doing the application process. And we decided philosophically we were ready to make larger grants and multi-year grants. How many of you have received grants from the Community Foundation over the years? So many of you have been first witnesses to the kinds of changes that we were talking about. In the past, we had multiple applications. You could submit an application anytime. And now we've created one application process to apply for all the unrestricted dollars that we have. We have 2 deadlines a year, roughly 6 months apart. So it's structured about when you apply and when you can expect to know the outcomes of that results. In our competitive grants program, we completed a cycle toward the end of December. We started another application process in January. We upped the amount of maximum grants to $55,000 a year. We retained a feature that we've had in the past that you could include in your budget for projects that you propose, a 10% administrative set-aside, understanding that you had operational expenses that were indirect costs. And the big payoff was up to $165,000 total was possible. We provide a caveat around that, higher accountability and tests for results and outcomes as a result of the increase in size of that dollar investment. And we're really looking for characteristics that went beyond programs that were certainly worthy in what they did, but we're looking for impact in terms of breadth of area served and the quality of thought leadership that was behind the ideas you were asking us to support. We did 2 cycles per year, and we also told organizations that you couldn't present multiple proposals for the same cycle, because we didn't want organizations to compete against themselves. So we really looked for organizations to self-determine what did they think would be their best shot for applying and submitting a proposal. We also talked about criteria that was inclusive of these kinds of things: collaboration, sustainability, leadership, those things that were really innovative, perhaps higher risk, but we were willing to entertain those proposals where high risk, high gain, and proposals that were also talking about systems change. So it was not just about pulling babies out of the river, but going upstream to see who was throwing them in, is the way I always talk about it. And having a significant multiplier effect in terms of leveraging. In other words, you had other partners working with you, to draw down other match, to make a deal whole, that the dollars were a critical way to fill a gap. Broad areas of interest. I'm sure that we have that breadth represented in this room. And it was a 2-step process: a letter of inquiry form, and which we invite. The most recent for this second cycle was, I think, January 15th. And it was just a 2-page submittal that gives us your best shot at a distilled representation of what your program was about, what you hope to achieve, and how you would use the money. And it was really on the basis of those 2-page letters of inquiry and submittals that a final determination was made by the staff about which would be invited to submit a full proposal. I would say this is an extremely competitive process. This last year we had over 150 submittals just at the letter of inquiry stage, and requesting over $11 million for a grants budget that was a little over $1.5 million at the most. So you can see the competition is really stiff, and it's a challenge to be able to look at all that we had to come in to make intelligent and we hope informed decisions. If you were successful and were invited to submit a full proposal, it includes a narrative budget form and additional materials as part of that. And this is, I'll show the website again, but this is our website. The application, the description of the